Warning: each episode of FAFO is intended for mature audiences and will contain descriptions about crimes of murder, sexual acts of violence, and crimes of that nature, and are meant for people who are 18 years of age or older. Take my word for it. It is not for the young or the faint of heart. This podcast contains real crimes, real victims, whose cases are so shocking and true to life that most of the time the perpetrator has fucked around and found out. Listening discretion is advised. Hey y'all, it's Allie G, and welcome back to another episode of FAFO True Crime Podcast. I've been a true crime lover for as long as I can remember. This podcast has been a dream come true, and it's years in the making, and I could not be more excited. My goal is not to be someone who takes what I read or listen to and talks about it. Believe me, I do the research. I have a true passion for the criminal justice system, including but not limited to the victims and the perpetrators as a result from these horrific crimes talked about on FAFO. So sit back and enjoy the ride. Okay, now that business is taken care of, today is going to be lengthy because it's time to put an end to the Fantastic Four of Idaho. As promised, I want to give a shout out to Kim Doucette. Thank you so much for being a loyal listener and for all your comments. I love you so much, and I'm waving to you, Kim, at the camera. So I hope you're having a great day. The first thing I want to start with is sort of an update. As we know, the trial is over. He's sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without the thought of parole whatsoever. But now that the gag order's lifted, the case is over, we can find out some information from police body cam, pictures of the house, his movements, just a whole bunch of things that we know now that we didn't know before, because it was just as short as a month ago that these things were released. So what I want to tell y'all today is I will be reading a lot because y'all know I want to get all the facts correct. And especially with the victims' impact statements, sometimes I'm going to have to read word for word because I want y'all to feel what I felt while I was watching them. And I think to paraphrase them just isn't fair. So let's start with the update since the sentencing is over. So now that the case file is open, we know that BK's cell phone was off for 2 hours surrounding the time of his travels and the murders. He also took a very eerie selfie 6 hours after the murder in his bathroom with a huge smile on his face and a thumbs up. I still say he's a piece of shit. He took a lot of selfies. He was very obsessed with himself. He was very self-absorbed. He thought that he was the shit. And we know he was a piece of shit. So he was obsessed with his own self-image, with serial killers such as Ted Bundy. And we know through the probable cause affidavit that he bought the K-Bar knife on Amazon March of 2022. The police asked everyone, well, let me go back. They showed all the body cam coverage of the police showing up at the scene from the first time they get the call throughout the house. There are some scenes that are blurred out because Ethan and Xana's family especially did not want their bedrooms, their images to be put out to the public. Hunter, who is Ethan's best friend, and he was the first one there, he saw Ethan and Xana first, and he sent Bethany and Dylan out of the house. Those were the two surviving roommates. And at this point, police asked everyone to move away from the house so they could secure the crime scene. Then they interviewed Dylan on body cam at the crime scene, and she was visibly shaking, and the officer assured her that she was doing a great job. She said she does not know why he spared her, especially since she saw him. And at that point, he walked by her room and walked out the house. He appeared to have known the layout of the house because he was possibly there while the prior tenants lived there before these 4 kids did. On December 3rd, the police went back to collect more evidence, which is fairly common in cases that they go back and make sure they got everything that they needed to get. Whether they were videoing the beer pong table, the kitchen, the bathrooms, empty soda cans, beer cans, the bedrooms, the neon sign on the wall that said good vibes, the blanket hanging behind the couch that said Saturdays are for girls only, because we know that these girls love to spend time together. You could hear one of the officers let out a huge sigh, because you can only imagine what he and the other officers felt when they saw the horrendousness of what had happened at 1122 King Road. It was an absolute shock to the tiny town of Moscow. They had never had a crime like this. This would have been shocking for a big city. All the cars were photographed as well. And as we know, Kaylee was only there for the weekend because she wanted to show her friends her new car. The house was frozen in time, and it was described as a tourist attraction. So there was always people riding around just to look at the house on King Road and to see where it all went down. And eventually they tore the house down. So 1122 King Road house does not exist anymore. Gary Jenkins, who was the chief of campus police from Washington State University, met in Moscow with the investigative team, which was about 30 to 40 people. And at that point, he told him he recognized BK's name. And it took him a minute, but he figured out that he interviewed him for an internship. He did not get the job, by the way. He collected evidence from BK's Washington State University apartment and his graduate assistant office, which he shared with another PhD student. His apartment was just like sparse. Like, there was very little furniture. There was a love seat, a small coffee table. The bathroom was spotless. There was a TV. So it kind of leads us to wonder, like, what did he sit back, cocked up on the couch, watching on TV, if he even did? It was almost like he didn't live there. Like, the closet had some stuff just thrown about and some hangers with nothing on them. And then there was also a black nitrate glove. And we know that he was dressed in all black that night. They also found a vacuum. They tagged it. They took the canister off the vacuum, tagged it too, just in case anything that was in the vacuum, DNA whatsoever, could be collected from that. They also found a number of parking tickets from Washington State University police, which he bragged about knowing how to work the system and getting out of those parking tickets, which obviously he didn't get out of a lot of them because there was a whole stack of them in his closet. They found books that all had to deal with criminology. And some of them were about serial killers, sexual perpetrators, all kinds of things that he was researching for school. Pullman PD showed him driving home at 5:20 a.m. The FBI constructed a model of the house, but since his guilty plea, there was no need for the model. He pled guilty, so there was no trial. Pennsylvania State Police raided his parents' home on December 30th, and BK was in all black. Seems to be a theme for him. The night of the murders, he made about 5 passes. Like, made a loop to where he passed the King Road house about 5 times. Before, it was from 3:30 in the morning until he speeds off from King Road at 4:40 a.m. And we know that Xana got an order from DoorDash at 4 a.m. and the DoorDash driver was having trouble finding the house. She actually gets out of her car because she couldn't find the address. She used a flashlight on her phone and was walking down the street when the cameras caught his white Elantra making its final pass to the house. So she came in contact with him within seconds. And she was interviewed by the police, of course, and that's how they know that this happened. And this was about 3:51 a.m. that she started looking for the address. And we know that around 4:01, 4:02 a.m. is when he entered the house. They said he sneaked in the sliding glass door, which he had to scale a wall to get to. The first body they found was Xana's. She had more than 50 stab wounds on her arms and her face. She tried to fight him off, and all this evidence would be hard for the defense to, what's the word I'm looking for? For the defense to counter. In circumstantial defense is always not the best thing, but in this case, there was so much circumstantial evidence presented by the prosecution that the defense just knew that there was no way. And I think that's what led to him taking the plea deal. So the police also interviewed, the police and the FBI also interviewed a couple named Heather and Jared Bernhardt. They are cell phone experts. And they said not only did he power his phone off for 2 hours, he turned his Wi-Fi off for 2 days prior to the murders. They looked at his history, and some of the things they saw were just disgusting. He looked at non-consensual porn. They were all aggressive or drugged victims in this porn that he watched. They said that he was a student with good attendance. His school computer had huge gaps from October 12th till after the murders on November 16th. His computer showed use, but no history. So, your programs run, your browser runs in the background, the systems run in the background, but there was no activity, which showed that he scrubbed it. He was covering his tracks. And then let's talk about the Mad Greek restaurant where 2 of the girls worked. It is now closed, I'm sure. Just as the King Roadhouse was torn down, it's just too much of a reminder for the people in the town of Moscow. And it also has been found out that he had been to the Mad Greek restaurant. He looked up, and about that fact, that was presented to the prosecution, and the defense did not like it at all. So that was part of that circumstantial evidence that just kept building up and building up, that I believe finally led to the plea deal. Because if he would have went to trial and was found guilty, and they would have given him the death penalty, it is not like a shot in the arm, you go to sleep, boom, you're dead. In Idaho, it's a firing squad. That's just crazy to me, but it's a firing squad. He looked up, when they went through his phone and his computer, he looked up home invasions, burglaries, co-ed killers, serial killers, the Gainesville Ripper, who was a co-ed killer and used the same knife as BK used in November of 2022. He researched Ted Bundy and, in fact, downloaded a PDF about that case. And on December 26th, at his parents' home in the Poconos, in the early wee mornings of November 26th, he was researching serial killers for hours about how they were raised. Some of them may have killed a dog as a child, how they were treated by their parents and their family growing up, if they had been molested as children, anything that could show why these people have these behaviors and commit these crimes. He had extreme and excessive behaviors. with his parents, abnormal porn searches, serial killers, wiretapping, and even terms like psychotic, psychopath, paranoia, just to name a few. Heather Bernhardt said, according to his cell phone and computer data, he was paranoid in the end. He wasn't just resting easy thinking he got away with these murders. On the selfie he took 6 hours after the murders, with a big smile on his face and a thumbs up, he had a Band-Aid on his hand, and he had wiped his hands. It looked like so clean. His knuckles were white. So it was kind of like he had scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed to, even though he had gloves on, in his mind, he needed to clean his hands. So according to the Bernhardts, in their expert opinion, they believe that that's what happened. They also said that the smoking gun for his devices was the timing of his action on his phone around the murders. They could not do this, but the FBI also did triangular mapping using the cell phone towers so they could tell where his movements were. His loops around King Road, driving from Pullman to Moscow. He had been plotting this a month prior, according to his phone. He used Reddit a lot, and he talked about the Idaho murders a lot on Reddit. So much so that he was banned from Reddit. And then post-crime, he cleaned his car like it was brand new. Then he started looking for new cars because he thought, oh shit, they put out that they're looking for a white Elantra, and that's what I have. So he cleaned that sucker, and not like you would clean it before you would go trade it in. Cleaned it as if he had never been in it, and went looking for a new car. He is serving his sentences in an Idaho maximum security J block. And a guy named Larry Levine was interviewed. He had been in prison, served his time. He got out and he wrote a book on basically how to survive in prison. And we know that BK filed grievances because of mental torture that they made through the vents, the other inmates. They would bang on the walls. They would just mentally torture him. That they were going to kill him, his family, rape him. And the facts are that they just can't get to him. He's in a cell 23 hours a day alone. And he doesn't go anywhere unescorted. He goes outside for 1 hour of rec time. And when I saw the picture of the rec yard that he gets to go to, it looks like dog kennels with wire fences. So he's even in a cell outside. And there's a cover over it, almost like a patio. And it's all cement. It was really interesting to me because I had never seen a rec yard like that before. But I guess when you're locked down in maximum security prison, that's what happens. He filed some grievances because he had mental torture. Because of the things that were being said to him through the vents. The facts are they can't get to him. He complains he doesn't like prison. Well, suck it up, Buttercup. You're in prison for the rest of your life. He only gets to shower every other day. He is in what they call long-time restricted housing. He has some civil rights because more than 50 years ago, Superior Court Judge Thurgood said that even though you walk into prison, you still have some of your civil rights. And basically, his civil rights were and are to be kept safe. So, because he's going to be there for life, and because he is in there with some other really bad people, sooner or later, Mr. Levine believes that they're going to get a hold to him. He also says that whoever takes him out is going to be have folk hero status. He'll never get into Gen Pop because he will be killed within minutes. Now, he did say, if you think about it, and he used 5 years down the road, someone will leave a door open, he'll be unsupervised in the shower, glass or poison will be in his food, etc. He was very meticulous about the crime, not a typical J Block resident. And so, being in this situation, because he was so controlling and obsessive, he wasn't in his element, being around real criminals. Levine doesn't think he went into the house knowing that he was going to kill 4 people. He stumbled upon these people who knew he was there, so he had to kill them too. He also really doesn't know if he went there with the intent to kill her. He said maybe not. Maybe he went there to rape her, but she wasn't alone. So it spiraled out of control, and he's not as smart as he thinks he is. So that's just my update of what has been released to the public since the case is over. And now let's get back into the victim impact statements. And we're going to start with Steve Gonsalves, who is Kaylee's father. He actually got up to the podium and turned it to where he could make eye contact. This Gonsalves family does not play. He said, "We are here to finish what you started. Today, you've lost control. Today, we are here to prove you messed with the wrong families. You tried to break our community apart and break us. You failed. Instead, you have united everyone in their disgust of you. Today, you have no name." They decided to stop even saying his name. And like me, they refer to him as BK. And he said, as soon as he got the knock on his door, his kids looked up at him and said, "What do we do, Dad?" He replied, "You get your ass to work." So they started calling, texting, emailing, putting the pictures out of the kids. Within hours, they had the white car on camera, and police had his DNA. He said, "You were careless and stupid." He said, "Master degree, you're a joke. Complete joke. The world is watching because of the kids, not because of you. Nobody cares about you. You are not worth the time or the effort to be remembered. In time, you will be forgotten in the wind. No visitors, nothing more than an unmarked tombstone. From this moment, we will forget you. In closing, I will say, you picked the wrong family, the wrong community, the wrong state, the wrong nation, and we are laughing at you on your trip to the pen, which will be today. Then, of course, he thanks all those involved for getting the justice that the families deserved. Now, the next person that got up to talk is my girl, Olivia Gonzalez. She is Kaylee's sister. And boy, did this girl really dig her heels in. She spoke with such poise and truth. She never wavered, not once. And by the way, she left the podium as her dad had turned it. She had a mission, and man, did she deliver it. Here's what she said. I am not here to speak in grief. I'm here to speak in truth. Because the truth is, my sister Maddie and her best friend Kaylee were not yours to take. They were not yours to study, to stalk, and to silence. They are everything you could never be. Loved, accepted, vibrant, accomplished, brave, and powerful. The truth about Kaylee and Maddie, they would have been kind to you. In a world that rejected you, they would have shown you mercy. The truth is, I'm angry. Every day, I'm angry. I'm left shouting in the inside of my own head everything I wish I could say to you. I'd always been the heavyweight and to fight the battles that they did not feel like they could fight. And all it took was a call. And they knew I would handle it for them, no matter the time, no matter the cost. She wrote her thoughts down, and she says, I've chosen to read them, even though it's very raw. It's her final act of love. My dream is to read that final act of love, to bring meaning through pain and the latest blow in realizing you don't deserve it and Katie and Maddie don't need it. Kaylee and Maddie have always known my love, and they would never ask me to prove it by further victimizing myself to a defendant who has shown no guilt, no remorse, no apprehension. I won't stand here and give you what you want. I won't offer you tears. I won't offer you trembling. Disappointments like you thrive on pain, on fear, and on the illusion of power, and I won't feed your beast. Instead, I will call you what you are: sociopath, psychopath, murderer. I will ask the questions that will reverberate violently inside my head. Some of these might be familiar, so sit up straight while I talk to you. Man, this chick was standing on business, y'all. She wanted to know, how was your life before you murdered my sisters? Did you prepare for the time before leaving your apartment? Please detail what you were thinking or feeling at this time. Why did you choose my sisters? Before making your move, did you approach my sisters? Before leaving their home, is there anything else you did? How does it feel that the only thing you failed more miserably at than murder was being a rapper? Did you recently start shaving or manually pulling out your eyebrows? Why November 13th? Did you truly think your Amazon purchase would be untraceable because you used a gift card? Where's the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What were Kaylee's last words? Please describe the anxiety you must have felt when you heard the Bearcat pull up to your home in December of 2022. Which do you regret more? Returning back to the scene 5 hours later, or never going back to Moscow? Not even once. If you were really smart, do you think you would be here right now? You are terrified of being ordinary, aren't you? Do you feel anything at all? Or are you exactly what you always feared? Nothing. If you're so powerful, then why are you still hiding, defendant? You see, I'm here today as me. But who are you? Let's try to take off that mask and see. You didn't create devastation. You revealed it, and it's in yourself. That darkness you feel, that emptiness, you'll sit with it for a long time after this is over. That is your sentence. And it was written on the wall a long time before you pled guilty. You didn't win. You just exposed yourself as the coward you are. You're delusional, pathetic, hypochondriac loser who thought you were so much smarter than everybody else. Constantly scolding, turning your nose up at grammar mistakes and nitpicking and criticizing others. You wanted so badly to be different, to be special, to be better, to be deep, to be mysterious. You thought you could figure out the human psyche and see through it all while tweaked out on heroin. Lurking in the shadows made you feel powerful because no one ever paid attention to you in the light. You thought you were exceptional all because a grade on a paper. You thought you were elite because your IQ test from online in 2010 told you so. All of that effort just to seem important, it's desperate. There is a name for your condition, though. Your inflated ego just didn't allow you to see it. Wannabe. You act like no one could ever understand your mind. But the truth is, you're basic. You're pathetic. You aren't special or deep, not mysterious or exceptional. Don't ever get it twisted again. No one is scared of you today. No one is intimidated by you. No one is impressed by you. No one thinks that you are important. You orchestrated this like you thought you were God. Now look at you, begging a courtroom for scraps. You spent months preparing, and all it took was my sister and a sheath. You worked so hard to seem dangerous, but real control doesn't have to prove itself. The truth is the scariest part about you is how average you turned out to be. The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, and dirty. Let me be clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because someone finally said your name out loud. I see through you. You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep in the middle of the night like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your fucking ass. Thank you. Then the whole courtroom clapped. She was amazing. When I say stand on business, old girl stood on some business. Then the next person we hear from is Christy Gonzalez, who is Kaylee's mother. And this is what she had to say. It's about what you did to me, and I need you to hear it. When you murdered my daughter, you didn't just take her life. You shattered others. You attacked what you could never be. In doing so, you left a trail of devastation far beyond that house. I no longer recognize parts of myself. I am forever changed. You're not that good at pursuing a career in criminal justice. You're not good at anything. You couldn't secure a job. You couldn't get a female to even look in your direction. You couldn't get along with others, all because you're pathetic. Now you're a joke in this courtroom. I wish I could adorn you with a jester hat to match your orange jumpsuit. She went on to say that even though the death penalty couldn't take a shot at you, I'm sure the men in prison will in more ways than one. She pulled no punches and she said, you will finally get what you wanted. Physical touch. Just probably not the way you expected it. You're nothing. You are the official property of the state of Idaho, where your fellow inmates are anxiously awaiting your arrival. Hell will be awaiting you. Then we heard from the prosecutor, whose name was Bill Thompson, is Bill Thompson. He shared the background of what brought them to court that day. Under oath, he admitted that he was guilty of all 5 counts against him. He also waived any appeal. The state met with the families after he wanted the deal. They let them know that there might be a plea deal. The families had a difference of opinion within each one of them, and the state totally understood because of the uniqueness of the case, with it being 4 victims. There was only one possibility: for BK to plead guilty straight up to all 5 counts, charged with no talk of parole. There will be no bargaining. This trial could have consumed decades of time in the future. He then decided to plead guilty as charged. He went on to say it's finally time for the judicial system to close the door on these chapters. Very emotional. It is the state's prayer. Count 1, burglary, 10 years. Count 2, the defendant gets fixed life for the murder of Maddie Mogen. Count 3, the defendant gets fixed life for the murder of Kaylee Gonzalez. Count 4, the defendant gets fixed life for the murder of Xana Kernodle. Count 5, the defendant will get the sentence of fixed life for the murder of Ethan Chapin. These sentences are to be back-to-back consecutively, and respect for the 4 people whose lives who were taken brutally for no reason. We can never undo the horror that happened on November 13th, 2022 at 1122 King Road in Moscow. He went to the system to afford the families and friends to be able to say what they needed to say, and he was very thankful that they got to do that. And then he puts a picture taken hours before the horrible murders, calling the 6 of them family. It was a picture of all 6 of the kids. I think it was Maddie was on one of them's shoulders, and Ethan and Xana were embraced. They were going tailgate for a big football game they had that day. Through tears, yes, the prosecutor was visibly upset. He says they were a forever family of 6 amazing individuals that we should all recognize and appreciate. And one last thought after the judge sentences the defendant to death, basically, because he will die in prison. He has to stand up in belly chains, leg irons, while escorted by the Idaho Department of Corrections. The door will close behind him forever. That is the closer that we can speak. That is the closer that we can seek, and what all of these loving friends and families deserve. Then it came to the part for the judge to talk. His name was Stephen Hippler. He asked the defense if they have evidence, and they say no. Then he asked BK if he has any statements he wants to make, and he says, I respectfully decline. Someone in the gallery yelled, "Coward." That, to me, was way too nice of a word. I might have got kicked out. The judge then extended prayers to the families and thanked the counsel for their professionalism. He went on to say that during the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, a faceless coward breached the tranquility of 6 beautiful people and senselessly slaughtered 4 of them. Due to the defendant's incompetence and the outstanding police work by multiple agencies, the person that slithered through that sliding glass door at 1122 King Road now stands before the world and this court unmasked. This unfathomable and senseless act of evil has caused immeasurable pain and loss. He says, and I quote, "No parent should ever have to bury their child. This is the greatest tragedy that could be inflicted on a person. Parents who took their children to college in a truck packed with boxes had to bring them home in hearses lined with coffins. The loss this killer inflicted was not just the death of these children's parents, siblings, grandparents, as we've heard today. It has ripped a hole in their hearts and souls, destroying a special part of their very essence. Any person who is a parent defines themselves as much, and it has been stolen from them. None of us should question why the way they deal with their loss, or the reasons they deal with their loss and how they deal with their loss. He listened in awe of the courageous family members and surviving roommates despite the hell they faced. The families or survivors carrying on the memories of these amazing children and make sure they are never forgotten and forever celebrated. We know who did it, but we will never know why. If we continue to focus on why, it will continue to give BK relevance. We give him agency and power.